Okay. So in previous sutra class, we discussed about a technique called Sanyama, and how this Sanyama technique is the highest possible concentration attainable by a human being. That also we discussed. And then we saw that through this technique of Sanyama, Prajnaloka takes place. That means the wisdom, the knowledge is attained. And it is progressively deeper and deeper and higher knowledge which is attained. So now, today's sutra, we'll see if we can cover one or two sutras at least. So, and now 3 sutras subsequently, they are talking about this continuation of idea of Sanyama. They are talking about Sanyama only, and they are telling us about various aspects of Sanyama. So once the technique of Sanyama has been mastered, then last time we saw that it is like a searchlight. We have got a very good instrument. Earlier we had a poor instrument. Our mind was a poor instrument. Our senses were very poor. Their functioning was defective. Now with the help of yoga techniques, the mind has been in a way, purified. It has been rectified. And then now a very good tool it has become. So this tool is like a searchlight. And we saw that searchlight, wherever it is thrown, whichever part searchlight is illuminating, that is completely known. So that is what we had seen. Now, having acquired this kind of capacity, and lot of changes have taken place in the personality of the yogi, lot of changes have taken place in the mind of the yogi. So, there is a tremendous development which has taken place in the process of acquiring this technique of Sanyam. And it is unlike anything we can really even imagine. Because as we are, the kind of concentration we have, we don't have really a glimpse of, and even an idea that what that concentration would be like, how that mind will be so powerful that whatever it wishes to know, it will be able to know. That is the kind of capacity mind acquires. So now once having acquired this capacity of concentration, what remains is that how to use it. What is the, now further course of action? So today's sutra talks about using this Sanyama technique in certain yogic manner. And what is that yogic manner? It says, today's Sutra 6 reads, Tasya bhumishu vinyoga. Tasya bhumishu vinyoga. That means the Sanyama which has been mastered, it is to be applied to the successive stages of practices. Successive stages. That is what. So if we read the translation in Hindi, it says भूमियों में उसका संयम का विनियोग करना चाहिए. मतलब संयम का विनियोग, संयम का इस्तेमाल, संयम का उपयोग भूमियों में करना चाहिए. तो ये भूमि वर्ड हम लोगों ने पहले भी डिस्कस किया है, और हम लोगों ने देखा है कि चित्त की भूमियां हैं, और इसके पहले थोड़ा क्लैरिफाई किया था कि क्षिप्त चित्त, मूढ़ चित्त, विक्षिप्त चित्त. हालांकि इनमें बहुत अच्छा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन होता है, लेकिन ये कॉन्सेंट्रेशन योग के लिए उपयुक्त नहीं होता है, क्योंकि उस कॉन्सेंट्रेशन में जो थोड़ा बहुत ज्ञान मिल जाता है, वो थोड़ी देर के बाद में सामान्य अवस्था में आते आते वो ज्ञान खो जाता है. सिर्फ एकाग्र चित्त में जो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन होता है, या एकाग्र चित्त में जो समाधि होती है, उसमें जो ज्ञान प्राप्त किया जाता है, उसमें जो प्रज्ञा प्राप्त की जाती है, वो प्रज्ञा जो है वो हमारे व्यक्तित्व का एक भाग बन जाती है, हमारे मन का एक भाग बन जाती है, चित्त का एक उसमें परमानेंट छाप आ जाता है. It is a permanent kind of transformation which is taking place with the prajna which is attained in Samprajnata Yoga, in Ekagra Chitta. So that we have seen. So there the bhumis were talked about. Now here again they are talking about कि भूमियों में उनका विनियोग होना चाहिए. तो कौन सी भूमियों में विनियोग होना चाहिए? तो दो प्रकार की चीजें. एक तो मटेरियल वर्ल्ड है, जिसमें हम लोग देखते हैं कि निम्न अवस्था है और उच्च अवस्था है. लोअर स्टेट्स आर देयर, हायर स्टेट्स आर देयर. So if we talk at the physical level, maybe the physical aspect, the body, even understanding the deeper aspects of body is involved here. So one may have very poor knowledge about the body, and when this kind of prajna is attained, then one may get a superior knowledge, highest knowledge about the body. But primarily what is important is the jnana, the knowledge aspect. The knowledge we have at lower stages is not really very useful to us, because that knowledge is contaminated, that knowledge is not good enough to reveal the truth. So that kind of knowledge has to be attained. So there's a progression in the knowledge. So this Bhumishu is referring to that only. And we have seen that in chapter 1, they have already talked about all these things. So they are very briefly mentioning here. Tasya Bhumishu Vinyoga. So what do we understand by that? Now we have seen in chapter 1, Sutra 17, they talked about Samadhi. So in Samadhi, there were 4 aspects of Samadhi of Samprajnata. 2 kinds of Samadhi were mentioned in chapter 1, Samprajnata and Asamprajnata. Sutra 17 deals with the Samprajnata Samadhi. And there we saw Samprajnata Samadhi also has got 2 aspects, 4 aspects, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda and Asmita. So these 4 aspects, now again we'll find that Vitarka is at a very gross level. Vitarka is related to gross object. Vichara is related to subtle object. Ananda is also subtle object, but Ananda is more from the point of view of reception. The sattva which is involved in the process of knowing, process of acquiring knowledge, process of getting every kind of knowledge related to world. So that process is coming in the form of Samapatti or Samadhi, which is dealing with Ananda. And then finally, who is getting the knowledge? Who's the recipient of the knowledge? That becomes the object. So we find that in Samadhi Sutra, which is mentioned in 17, there are 4 kinds of objects there. One is gross, one is subtle, but in subtle also there are 3 categories. So subtle object is there, external object in the form of grahya, but there is also grahan, ananda and asmita. So these 4 stages have been talked about. Now, if we continue thinking in this manner, again, Sutra, further in chapter 1, in Samapattis have been talked about. Savitarka Samapatti, Nirvitarka Samapatti. Savichara Samapatti, Nirvichara Samapatti. So these are the bhumis which they are talking about. And the Sutra is saying, Tasya Bhumishu Vinyoga. ये जो कैपेसिटी हमारे मन में आई है, हमारी क्षमता जो बढ़ गई है, अब हम संयम कर सकते हैं. तो ये संयम का इस्तेमाल कहाँ करना है? स्थूल विषय से चालू करते हैं, वितर्क से चालू करते हैं, और फिर वो सवितर्क से निर्वितर्क होता है, फिर सूक्ष्म स्तर पे जाता है तो सविचार होता है, उससे भी सूक्ष्म स्तर पे जाता है तो निर्विचार होता है, और उससे भी सूक्ष्म स्तर पे जाता है तो आनंद है, अस्मिता है. तो अल्टीमेटली वन रियलाइजेज वंस ओन बुद्धि, one's own ahankar, one's own pure this I sense is the ultimate object as far as Samprajnata Samadhi is concerned. So that's why they are saying that this Sanyama has to be applied in various stages. Now this is very important. Of course, this sutra is talking about very high state of consciousness, very high state of objects. But even somebody is talking in between. Kindly mute yourself. I think Alka, can you mute yourself?
Yeah, sorry, sir.
So this subtlety goes on increasing from the grosser to the, तो पहले एकदम स्थूल विषय में ज्ञान होता है, फिर स्थूल सूक्ष्म जाते हैं. उसी तरीके से अनुभव के बारे में जब हम बात करते हैं तो पहले बहुत स्थूल अनुभव आते हैं, फिर धीरे धीरे सूक्ष्मता की ओर बढ़ने जाते हैं. तो जैसे ये समापत्तियों की और समाधि की बात कर रहे हैं तो ये बहुत उच्च अवस्थाएं हैं, पर अगर हम लोअर लेवल पे भी अगर बात करें तो हमेशा स्थूल से सूक्ष्म की तरफ जा सकते हैं. It's a golden principle that we have to move from easier things to difficult and complex things. So simpler things are attained first and then complex things are attained later. The same process is followed in the Samapattis also. So this Sanyama has to be applied in gradation. in various stages of bhumis and all the possible knowledge in the world. You know, like Patanjali is like a very good scientist. You know what is the essential nature of science? Science observes phenomena. Science observes the various things which are available for observation through senses, and then it tries to understand the underlying principle which is governing the external phenomenon. So that is why you'll find that we have certain laws which are really explaining every manifested aspect of, say, physics. So, for example, to understand it easily, when we talk about motion, various kinds of movements are there. We see when we look at the external world, cars are moving, people are moving, birds are flying, we are walking, various kinds of movements are there. Now, all these movements, ordinary mind may say that they are all individual, different kind of movements, but consider it from the scientific point of view. They all the movements in the world, all the movements in the universe are covered by the law of motion, the three laws of Newton, which has been given to us in science. So no matter what kind of movement we are talking about, we'll find that it is falling into one of the categories given to us by Newton. So this is the function of science, that it observes the gross phenomena and it tries to understand the subtle principle governing that phenomena, and it tries to explain the particular manifested phenomenon. So they give us principle like, gravity is there, for example. Anything thrown up, if it is matter, it is thrown up, it will fall down. So this is the general principle. Now, same way, Patanjali has very beautifully stated, when we look at the knowledge aspect, there are various kinds of knowledge. If I ask you, what do you know about world? You will say, I know this, I know that, and hundreds of things will be there, thousands of things will be there, which we can say that I know. But then, if we go deeper into it, what Patanjali says, every kind of knowledge can be reduced, can be generalized into three categories. There are three things to be known. What are those three things? Grahya, Grahan, Grahita. All that we are capable of knowing, everything in the universe we are capable of knowing is known as Grahya. That is what is Grahya. So whatever we are capable of knowing, it will be termed as Grahya. And the process through which we know that, what is that process? This knowledge is there. The external world has got a certain visibility. It has got certain illumination capacity. It is manifesting itself. But it is not enough that the external world is manifesting itself. We have the capacity to receive that manifestation through our senses. So our eyes have the capacity to see, our ears have the capacity to hear, our tongue has the capacity to taste, our nose has the capacity to smell, and the thermal sensations are there. So this is the process involved of acquiring knowledge. So the second is, and then eyes will see, but what eyes will do, I cannot decide what. For example, now if I show you something, your eyes will see it, but eyes will only have the image of that object. Who will know? Ultimately, eyes are going to refer it to the mind is going to refer it to the eye sense, and then one will say that, oh, this is the object I see. So there is the entire process of acquiring knowledge, and that is known as Grahan. So every process which is involved in the process of acquiring knowledge will be falling under the second category of Grahan. And then finally, whatever we know is Grahan. Whatever is knowable is Grahya, whatever we know is Grahana. And then the question comes, who knows it? So as I said, that if eyes are seeing something, eyes will always refer to mind. Mind will say it is a flower. Then the question will come, who sees the flower? Then the person will say, I see the flower. So the I. So I is the Grahita. These three things are there in the entire knowledge process. एक ग्राह्य है, एक ग्रहण है और एक ग्रहीता है. तो ये जितना भी समाधि की प्रक्रियाएं हैं, सवितर्क, निर्वितर्क, सविचार, निर्विचार, सूक्ष्म, they are all covered under grahya, grahana, grahita. So in a way, yoga is a process where one acquires the correct एंड जिसको हम लोग कहेंगे सम्यक ज्ञान, जो बुद्ध के जो 8 प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, सम्यक ज्ञान, तो सम्यक शब्द वहाँ पे बहुत अच्छा है। और सम्यक से ही ये जो इसको अगर हम दूसरे ढंग से देखेंगे, सांख्य, सांख्य और योगा आर वेरी क्लोजली रिलेटेड। सांख्य का अर्थ क्या है? सम। सांख्य जो है 2 शब्दों से बना हुआ है, सम और ख्या। सम का अर्थ है सम्यक, परफेक्ट, इनफेलिबल। सम का अर्थ है इनफेलिबल, परफेक्ट, करेक्ट नॉलेज। और ख्या का अर्थ है नॉलेज। तो सांख्य का अर्थ है परफेक्ट नॉलेज। उसी तरीके से ये जो ये जो योग जो बात कर रहा है, ज्ञान की बात कर रहा है, ये सम्यक ज्ञान की बात कर रहा है, करेक्ट नॉलेज। सो करेक्ट नॉलेज अबाउट ग्राह्य, वॉट एवर वी आर नोइंग, उसके बारे में करेक्ट ज्ञान होना चाहिए। दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट। बट डू वी गेट करेक्ट नॉलेज? Are our minds capable enough to really conclusively say that I have known this thing completely, now I need not know it any further? Has any time any such moment arrived in our lives that we can say that about this I have known enough, now I don't want to know anything, I have acquired enough knowledge about this? We are not able to say that because we have not reached that level. So here, through this process of Sanyama, one can acquire samyak knowledge about Grahya as well as Grahana as well as Grahita. Now you see, all yoga techniques are also divided in these 3 categories of knowledge. I had mentioned when we were doing chapter 1, some techniques were there which were related to the Grahana aspect. For example, there was a Parikarma talked about in chapter 1. Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasah sthiti nibandhini. It is related to the process of grahana. Because in grahana, sattva guna is predominant. So in a way, from grahya, when we move to grahana, it is more sattva. And when we come to grahita, it has become still better and purer sattva. So it's a process from tamasic, rajasic states of mind and vrittis to a very, very sattvic, illuminating state of mind. So this Sanyama technique has to be applied in that manner where we are able to move from a grosser state to a better state, which is subtler and which is more accurate. So that is what it means. Tasya bhumishu vinyoga. So example would be, now to make it very simple, I often think of how this sutra knowledge can be applied to techniques. I don't know how many of you have learned pranayam number 1 of Yoga Institute. It is a simple technique where we become aware of breath and we are equalizing the breath. So when the first time, or we can take another technique, say Sukhasana we can take. For that matter, any technique we can take. So when we do it for the first time, what happens? You know, for example, when pranayam number 1 is taught and first time we are doing, we are always missing the count, and if we are counting properly, then we are missing the breath. कभी सांस रुक जाती है, कभी काउंटिंग रुक जाती है, एंड देन वी आर स्ट्रगलिंग 1 महीना पूरा प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, तब जाके होता है कि सांस लेते लेते हम लोग गिन भी पाते हैं और सांस छूटती भी नहीं और गिनना भी छूटता नहीं। 1-1.5 महीना हमको उसको मास्टरी में लग जाता है। अब उससे क्या होता है कि थोड़ा सा हम लोगों को ब्रेथ अवेयरनेस आता है, लेकिन ये ब्रेथ अवेयरनेस आता है वो तो ठीक है, पर कुछ लोग ऐसे रहते हैं कि दे डोंट वांट टू प्रोग्रेस. So they may stop at that level where they are only maintaining that breath awareness. But if a person is sincerely, regularly doing the same technique over and over again, अगर वो साल 2 साल 3 साल वो प्रैक्टिस रेगुलरली करता है, तब क्या होगा कि the moment he starts focusing on the breath, now there is no struggle about the counting, no struggle about the stoppage of the breath. Now immediately he goes into a concentrated state of mind. Immediately he goes into a highly concentrated state of mind. Some people have reported that the moment they start focusing on the breath, their body starts becoming relaxed. So now understand that technique which was only giving us breath awareness and which was a struggle in the beginning, If it is done regularly, properly, and systematically, then it becomes a technique which is suitable for even relaxation. शवासन की जरूरत नहीं, ब्रेथ पे ध्यान दिया तो रिलैक्सेशन हो गया. कॉन्सेंट्रेशन मेडिटेशन की जरूरत नहीं, क्योंकि सांस पे ध्यान दिया तो एकदम एकाग्रता आ जाती है. So that is a kind of progression. So you understand from this example that earlier it was a gross thing. But when we have attained proficiency in the technique, then what happens? The same technique gives us relaxation also. It gives us a very good concentration also. So the progress has taken place. That is what is Bhumishu Vinyoga. That is how the Bhumis have to be attained. Earlier, we cannot expect if a master says that the moment I take 2-3 breaths and I go into trance. If a master says that, and if a novice says that I also want to do it, do you think he will succeed? Because master ने पता नहीं कितने पापड़ बेले हैं, उसने पता नहीं कितने साल उसका अभ्यास किया है, तभी he has attained that state. तो ये योग में एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम आता है कि कभी कभी ज्ञान नहीं होने की वजह से हम पहले से ही बहुत उच्च अवस्था में जाना चाहते हैं. आई हैव सीन इन माय regular classes at the Yoga Institute, Sutra classes. I used to meet many students, many people used to come and they used to talk. And sometimes they will immediately start talking about Kundalini, they will talk about Samadhi. They don't even know yamas and niyamas. They don't know what are the factors which are responsible for distraction of mind. They don't know what is disturbing them. They don't know how to control that disturbance. And they immediately talk about Samadhi. Now, how it is possible? Unless we have understood those factors which are causing disturbance in the body and mind, and we have worked on them, we have overcome them, how is it possible that mind can go into an undisturbed kind of concentration? It is not possible. So this fact is missed by most of the yoga aspirants. They aspire too high without realizing that whether the work required to be done has been done or not. It is a hard work. When we are growing, when we are evolving, we have to constantly monitor our mental states. We have to constantly monitor our thoughts, what kind of reactions are coming. When we are guarded, we might be angels. But when we are not guarded, that is the time when the demonic tendencies may come up. And we have to recognize this. And unless we have worked on those tendencies, we cannot expect that we will be having a very good state of mind, of peaceful state of mind, harmonious state of mind. So work has to be done. And that's why this Bhumishu Vinyoga principle has to be always kept in mind by a yoga aspirant. Now there's a beautiful passage I would like to read from Dr. Jaydev's book, which is conveying this idea of Tasya Bhumishu Vinyoga. एक कैसे होता है, इसको थोड़ा सा डॉक्टर साहब ने बहुत अच्छे से समझाया है, तो आई वुड लाइक टू रीड दैट टू यू. This is page 267 of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, orange book of Yoga Institute, Dr. Jayadev's book, page 267. So I'm reading from that. Now it says, a simple rule often mentioned is from the easy to the hard, or from the simple to the complex, which unfortunately students forget. We are always interested in the complicated and the difficult. We talk of self-realization, God realization, we talk of Samadhi, etc. Unfortunately, people have no knowledge of the earlier steps. They have not conditioned the mind, and they still talk about meditation without being able to stay in a one-pointed state for a prolonged period. We often use such words like Nirvikalpa or Samadhi, etc., without understanding the stages like Savikalpa. It is very rightly said that one's own intuition can help one understand one's capacity. This intuitive understanding can be your teacher, and you should use this to guide your own mental state. This capacity is like that of the Guru, who directs you as to where to go next. Understanding one's own strength and capacity, one can aim higher. Now, you see, this is very, very significant and important. What Dr. Saab has said, that if one is sincerely working, then one need not depend on any external teacher or even guru. One's own experience will become guru. Your own intuition will guide and lead you in this further direction. So now this can be understood in the example which I gave related to pranayam number 1 technique. So who's deciding that now pranayam number 1, which was just learn to create breath awareness, is now able to give me relaxation? Who's deciding that now that technique which was learned only for breath awareness is now giving me a very good concentration? Nobody else can decide. The individual has to himself realize it. So his experience is telling him that he has acquired a new capacity. He has gone little further into the area of understanding. He has acquired a better knowledge. So this way, this is what doctor is trying to tell us, that if we are sincerely practicing and we are trying to master the earlier stages, then we automatically know that now we can go further. अगर हम में 10 मिनट की भी क्षमता नहीं है एकाग्रता की, और हम 1 घंटा ट्राई करेंगे किसी दूसरे को देख के, तो हम कभी भी सक्सेसफुल नहीं हो सकते हैं। उसके लिए मेहनत किसको करनी पड़ेगी? हमको ही मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, हमको ही काम करना पड़ेगा। इसीलिए, और काम करना हमेशा डिफिकल्ट है। अब जब रिजल्ट आता है तो हमको बहुत अच्छा लगता है। इट्स अ ग्रेट प्लेजर एंड इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ ग्रेट जॉय। बट व्हाइल स्ट्रगलिंग, it is hard work. So that one who is willing to do this hard work can only go further. Now in here a beautiful principle has been given, that a beautiful quote has been given in Vyas Bhashya. One should always remember that quote. And that quote reads, before reading further, I will just mention that quote and then we will discuss further. So what is that quote? योगेन योगो ज्ञातव्यो योगी योगात् प्रवर्तते। योगेन योगो ज्ञातव्यो योगी योगात् प्रवर्तते। यो प्रमतस्तु स योगे रमते चिरम। Now the meaning of this quote from Vyasa is, yoga is to be known by yoga, and yoga itself leads to yoga. He who remains steadfast in yoga always delights in it. So the very important quote it is, that yoga is to be known by yoga. Now, deeper stages of concentration. We saw that Antaranga Yoga and Bahiranga Yoga. Now the work is being done at the mental level. Nobody outside will come to know what is going on inside us. We only know what is going on. So we will be guided by our own intuition. If we have had a very good experience, if we have succeeded in the lower stage, then lower stage will automatically push us towards higher stage. That is why they say योगे न योगो ज्ञातव्यो। योग के द्वारा योग को जाना जाता है, और योग ही योग में प्रवर्तित करता है। At a certain point, things become really difficult, and Guru can just show the way that you have to walk this way. But just a moment, there's an important call. I'll take that and then I will come back.